Hey guys, Doc. Today we're going to talk about trimming shrubs, trimming trees. That's a bunch of you guys have asked about my Japanese maple. I've got a rose of Sharon bush here, a hardy hibiscus, a few different trees. I'll just give you a general thought process for this and keep it pretty simple, so hold on. Hey guys, so remember, I am not an arborist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, so let me give you my personal tips. The problem with trimming trees is that, number one, people generally don't understand that you just want to leave it natural, but you want to allow each branch to have its own space. Got it? So I'll come through here. I'll show you this rose of Sharon, which is a hardy hibiscus. I'll do a little bit on my pears. I'll show you a little bit of palms. We'll talk about some of the big boxwoods and talk a little bit about my knockout roses. And we're just out here trimming. This is the first sunshine we've seen in 3 days. And I just want to get across to you one simple thought process. And that is giving each branch its own space. That's it. That's all you got to think about. So when I look at a tree like this, and this is actually a shrub or a bush, it's Rose of Sharon. I call it a hardy hibiscus because this will survive in colder temperatures where normal hibiscus won't. But these things get real heavy. They fall over. I'll talk about the Japanese maple I did earlier. All I'm going to do today is I'm just going to give you a sort of a brief overview of my thought process. And all I want you to think about is overcrowding. And that's all I'm doing. All I'm thinking about is just trying to give each branch its own space and maybe take some of these crazy feeder branches off. So this branch is now coming into this branch space, so I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to take this off, even though it's more of a main stem. And I'm going to clean up a lot of these little independent pieces here. And what I want is I basically want one branch going into its own space, not growing. Anything that's growing inward I'm going to take off, and all that crazy mesh network is what I'm taking out of here. So when I look at this is sort of growing into this one space, so let's take this off, this. So now I have one branch coming up into here, one branch coming up into here. Now this one is growing into here, so let's take this off. So again, I've got this one branch coming up here like this. And that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take each individual branch and give it its own little section. These things have a tendency to overfoliate, overfoliage, and it's just huge, and it'll just tip over like this. So you really got to be aggressive. Don't be afraid to take this down. These things grow like crazy, and that's all I'm going to do. So let me give you an example, a good example right here. So I've got this V right here of this one branch, and then I have another branch coming in through this. This is just an absolute nightmare. So I got to figure this out somehow. I may have to get my cutters actually out and start to work this, but I got to clean all this up. This is just crazy. This cannot keep on going on like this. All right, so I did this one. I'm going to get rid of a lot of these little independent inward stuff. Oh man, what do I want to do here? That's not growing the right way. So we're going to get in there. We're going to take that out deeper. This can go up just a little bit too thick up here. Again, I'm going to take off a lot of these little independent branches in here because they just get too heavy. Hopefully now you can see that I've taken about 50% of the actual stems out of here, out of the actual stuff, and just opened it up and made it a lot more airy. And this will stop that top heavy syndrome that these things get. But you really got to be in here. And I may come back now once the leaves start to germinate and I start to get flowers. I'll probably come back and I'll take even more out. Again, just to give it that extra space. Okay, so here's the Japanese maple that I did a couple weeks ago. I took off almost 50% of this plant's limbs and just opened this up. So now this is coming into here, its own space. This is, every single branch has its own space. Anytime I start to get crossover, that's what I'm going to remove. I don't want things growing back inward. I don't want a lot growing downward. I just want each individual branch to have its own space, and it'll be light and airy. So anyways, sorry I didn't get that on video, but I want to show you that I'm just letting it looks very, very sparse, but if I don't do that right now, this thing will just be a big blob of red and it won't look light and airy. I've had a real good education this year with palm trees since we got the beach house, and I have 17 full-size palms. I have a bunch of small palms, but this is like one of those cactus palms. And basically what you want to do is you want to open it from the bottom up and give it some air underneath and really trim it kind of hard. You just want to leave just a nice green foliage section on top. Now these things are dangerous because they're full of spines. I want to show you that. These things are deadly. Absolutely deadly. The most painful thing that you can ever touch. So be careful if you're working with any palms. But bring them up, open them up. That's what makes these things pretty, is when you can see that sort of, let's call it a pineapple bottom. So get some of these leaves up where you can actually see it. Ouch. And so now you can see what I'm talking about. So now I can see the beauty of that base, and that really opens up that plant and really makes it appealing rather than just a big bunch of palm leaves. Now you've got the contrast of the base and the palm leaves. Leave a little bit green on top. These are flowering pear trees, and these were only about 6 feet tall when we planted them, and now you can see they're almost 20 feet tall. And it's nice because they don't add any shade because the sun comes in this way. But what I'm having to do, you can see that big branch sitting over here and these big branches here. Same sort of philosophy as I'm giving each one of these branches its own space. I'm choosing a dominant branch. So I'm choosing dominant branches and allowing each dominant branch to go up. And if I have any crossover, I'll eliminate crossover. Let me take you down to this one that I just did, and I'll show you a whole bunch of crossover and in-between work that we did. All right, so I'm hoping you can see this because this is a great example of just overcrowding. So this is my main trunk right here, I have a nice branch shooting off this way, but then I have this one straight running up alongside this. I have one running straight up inside here, and I have another one back here. So I'm going to take these crowders out, as I call them. That's coming out. That's coming out. And I really like to use shears. If I was using a saw, I could easily damage the other bark on here. There's one back here. That's just shooting straight up along this one. This is getting a little crowded, so let's top this off here. This is going to go this way. This one's going to go this way. I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to take that out. This one's coming up nicely. That one probably needs to come off. Let's take the inward branches off here. Okay, so let's talk real quickly about knockout roses. And a lot of people comment and they love my knockout roses, and I really don't do anything to them. We literally come out here with just hedge trimmers and we just whack the crap out of them depending on the location. So back here up against this back window, we come out here. Now these were probably up here, and we just came in with hedge trimmers and just whacked, and we just whacked, and we just whacked, and we just whacked these down. Now, could I go in and probably thin out some of this growth in here and make it more light and airy? I could, but I like that real thick bushy look to them. Same thing over here. We came in with hedge trimmers and we just sort of just cropped them down even with this, and then we left them nice and thick, and they'll stay thick. Now let's go back to the fence, and these things get huge. These things get huge, and I don't even really cut them, to be honest. I really need to probably go in and thin them out a little bit, but these things just get massive, and I have these big, huge knockouts. Now, the only problem with knockouts is they have a tendency to lean, and they'll want to grow towards the sun, and then when it gets wet, they'll want to tip over. So we come in with rebar. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a piece of rebar right here. And what we do is we take just soft yarn and we pull these things. We actually pull these bushes back and make them stand up straight with that rebar. Which not many people have, are my Hearty banana plants. Now these were just three little banana plants that we planted a few years ago. So here's what they look like. These were all covered over with mulch and pine straw. And as soon as the temperature starts to warm up, I need to pull all that out of here so they don't rot. But you can start to see, I'm starting to have little shoots out of here. Out of this one. This one typically comes in late, but this is the one that gets... this is the one that will get probably about 20 feet tall and have these massive leaves. For some reason, this one over here seems to start earlier, but its growth sort of stunts. It doesn't really get tall, and I don't know why. We'll see what happens this year. It changes almost every year. With this one, I have a lot smaller shoots, but the shoots are starting to come up. So again, we want to come in here and we want to pull all this out so we don't get any rot in there. And these things will just come up on their own. All right, so now let's talk about boxwoods and these hard trees. I'm going to show you something kind of amazing here. When we bought this house, we had a couple of these bushes that were 14 feet tall. So this right here was way up over the roof and just massive. And we literally came in and we cut it down to wood, solid wood. And we did that, and now we just sort of keep it trimmed. Now, this one gets in the way of my garden, so we cut it out this year. Look at that. Doc, why did you do that? You want to see what happens? Let me show you what happens with these things. Here's the exact same plant, that we did the same thing to. I cut this down to stumps last year, and look at it now, growing back. So if you have those right there, you can just cut the crap out of them. If they're growing too large, just really cut them down hard, and believe it or not, they'll grow back. This here, and he's cleaning up. That's the nice thing about having it. And I just want to show you real quick just how airy this thing became. So again, this one branch comes out into its own space. This one branch has its own space. All these branches have their own individual space, and I've cleaned out a lot of this interior nasty stuff in here. These trees I didn't do a whole lot to, other than remove some of the main, there were too many main shoots coming up. There were some crossovers, and so I just cleaned that up a little bit. We have done all the knockouts. We've taken down the knockouts. But I had him finish up the palm trees, and just let me show you what a difference this makes, how it kind of just opens it up, especially the bottom. It makes it look a lot airier. What a difference that makes now. They actually look like palm trees versus just big nasty clumps of palm leaves. And I have openness underneath there, and it looks really nice. So, hello crows. So that's about it for tree trimming today. Hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Dot.